Lickitung. Alright, well, and our time at the present. In the mountain area, we have Lickitung. I actually was looking for my other Pokemon when I ran into this. Lickitung is a bulky mixed attacker when it evolves into Licky. It's one of the few Sinnoh evolutions you're actually able to get because it evolves by knowing a specific move and not through an item. It learns Rollout at level 33, meaning it will evolve at that level, and it does, however, learn mostly physical moves, so you'll want to go for that over special attack. It doesn't get a whole lot of those. It is bulky, has a lot of HP, and decent defense. Actually, not decent defense, it actually has fantastic defense, so it can take hits well, though it's not much of an attacker. Going over some of the other Pokemon in the Johto Safari Zone, in the Plains area, the new encounter is Smeargle. Just don't use this Pokemon. Bad stats across the board. Its main trick is using Sketch to copy opponents' moves and then use them against them. Though it's very low physical attack and special attack, it's going to be doing absolutely no damage. It also has next to no bulk, making it paper thin. Its main trick is copying moves like Dark Void and using them for status infliction. Not a very good attacker overall, and I wouldn't recommend it. In the meadow area, the new encounter is Jigglypuff. It evolves into Wigglytuff with the Moonstone, and it becomes an HP sponge. Has decent defense and a lot of HP. It's an HP sponge. It's meant to take hits with its HP, not really have much defense. And it has some interesting moves, though it's a normal type attacker. It can do mixed damage, but again, it's a normal type Pokemon. It's not getting stab or type effectiveness at the same time. Wouldn't recommend it, but it could be interesting. Though they do make excellent guild masters. Also in the meadow, we have Sunkern. This is a Pokemon I forgot to go over in the National Park, though probably just because I decided it's got bad stats, so terrible you're never going to want to use it. Sunkern is, in the present generation of Generation 4, the weakest Pokemon, the lowest base stat total of all, and even when it evolves into Sunflora, it has low speed and just an okay special attack with very, very weak moves. It doesn't have the good grass special attacks most of them are known for, aside from Solar Beam, which literally every grass type and even a couple of fire types get, though it lacks the bulk to be able to use it, because it's, well, a flower. They're not particularly sturdy last I checked. Next up in the meadow, we have Marill. And last in the meadow, we have Clefairy. Insert fairy type hate joke. This is a bit like Jigglypuff in that it has good defense and HP, though it trades out some of that HP for better defense. Similar move pool to Jigglypuff and fulfills a near identical role to Jigglypuff. Very little distinction between the two, though it does get a bit better status moves. Again, not much. Next, we have, in the Rocky Beach area, Doduo. This is a very fast, very strong physical flying type. You wouldn't really expect it because it's a flightless bird, but it actually is. Very good speed and very good attack. It evolves not horribly late-ish at level 31, which we actually are around, so you actually will be getting a I always mix up the evolution Dodrio and Dugtrio. I always mix up the two because the names sound so similar. Blame Gen 1 names being stupid. Dodrio is pretty good. Good stats, good speed. It is a flying type that can, for some strange reason, learn fly, even though it has no wings, which is something I always find hilarious. It's like, hey, we got Gyarados, which is a giant water flying type. That's a sea dragon, basically. Learns 0 flying moves. Dodrio. It's a flightless bird that can fly through some weird sorcery. I always just love that idea. Just giant sea monster that is part flying but can't fly, and flightless little stick bird that can somehow fly. I don't know how it works, I just find it funny. The peak area has one new encounter, Wobbuffet. This is a Pokemon you could encounter also in the Dark Cave after Morty, though I chose not to because it's fairly deep in there and I don't want to carry a Pokemon with Flash. Let's just say I have a long history of dislike with that attack. But as for Wobbuffet itself, don't use it. It cannot attack. Seriously, Wobbuffet learns no moves that deal direct damage to the opponent. It can only counterattack with Mirror Coat and counter the attack counter. If you can predict what the opponent is using, say they're going to use a physical move and you predict that and you use counter, Wobbuffet is an HP sponge. It's meant to take hits, lose a lot of HP, and then rebound the damage with counter or Mirror Coat. If you predict right, it'll do a huge amount of damage. Though I wouldn't recommend using it because its only thing is counterattack damage, and it can use Destiny Bond, which is something, which it brings the opponent down with you, but then you're basically just trading Pokemon for Pokemon. It's a gimmick Pokemon, it's kind of funny, but it's strange. Its ability Shadow Tag, however, is interesting. It's very useful for catching the legendary beasts, as Shadow Tag prevents Pokemon from fleeing. If you can get them to exhaust all the PP of Roar, they will only be able to flee by actually the flee command, which has reduced priority, and the ability Shadow Tag, and as I forgot to mention before, Arena Trap on the Dugtrio and the Dugtrio line, I always mispronounce that, has. They lock the Pokemon in the battle and they cannot leave. It's very useful to get one of those two Pokemon because they can trap those legendary beasts in a battle, and you don't need to go through the shenanigans of, just use Mean Luck and then they use Roar the next turn. They always use Roar on the first turn because of Shadow Tag or Arena Trap, and then you can just have an easier time with them. Though, I wouldn't recommend them for anything beyond that, because Wobbuffet cannot do any damage itself, and Dugtrio is, how shall we say, glassy. It's useful for getting the legendary beasts, but not much else. In the forest area, we have your nightmares, Mr. Mime. This is a hard special focus, and not much else. It's creepy as heck, and relies on some status moves. It has Barrier, which can boost its low defense, but it's a special defensively focused Pokemon with not much attack. Thankfully, this thing is not a fairy type in this generation, as it would give me even more nightmares. But then again, Mr. Mime didn't get nightmare-inducingly terrifying until the 3D games. If you don't know what a 3D sprite looks like in the newer games, don't look it up. Save yourself the nightmares. Save yourself while you still can. In the swamp, what are you doing there? We have one new encounter which I actually can recommend, and is one of the reasons I'm not going over the very particular Pokemon I'm looking for that I actually just encountered and failed a while back. Murkrow is extremely glassy. It embodies Glass Cannon to a T, though lacking the cannon part. It doesn't have much defense, an okay speed stat, but not the best attack or special attack. It can do well as a mixed attacker in a pinch, but there are many better attackers of both the physical or special flying dark, and well, actually not even dark, because dark is... we'll get into dark later. If you want to use a dark type, this is one of your only options. When I went over Umbreon, I mentioned there were not many options in this game, and in the original game it was even worse. In the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal, Umbreon was straight up your only option. In this game, you have 4, with a question mark on that 4. Really, it's only 3, because Umbreon is meant to be all tank, and does no damage, really. One of those three options is Murkrow. Sadly, you cannot get Honchkrow yet. If you could, I would say get Honchkrow. If you want to hold on to a Murkrow till the end of the game, and then evolve it into Honchkrow, it will be very powerful. but I'm not going over Hauntco right now just because we don't have access to it. If you want to hold on to a Murkrow, the payoff will be worth it, but it's not going to be doing much for the rest of the game. If you want to teach it Fly and just use it for that purpose, it's good until then, similar to what I'm doing with Callian. In the Wasteland area, we have Kangaskhan. This thing is fast and unusually bulky. It's a normal type attacker, however, so it doesn't get same type attack bonus, though it has one trick up its sleeve in the form of Dizzy Punch. This is a physical normal move that it does benefit from Kangaskhan's pretty high physical attack stat and its normal type stab, with a very solid chance of confusing the opponent. Thankfully, Kangaskhan's Mega Evolution is on the game, or it'd be busted. Yes, I don't like Mega Evolutions. I tend to go on a little bit about them. And now we have reached one of the last Pokemon in our area, which is the Desert Zone. Here we can find the evolved Marowak and its pre-evolved form, Cubone. These are very slow, defensive-centered ground types with a very high physical defense and not terrible special defense. Their low attack might not seem the most appealing right off the bat, but when holding its signature item, the Thick Club, both Cubone and Marowak receive I believe it is doubled. Let me just check for a second. It receives a very sizable boost to its attack stat. Let me just check what it actually is, because I don't want to look like even more of an idiot. Yes, I was right. Its attack stat is doubled. Having seen what doubled attack stat from Huge Power on Azumarill did, Marowak has a higher attack stat than Azumarill. Yeah. It does exactly what you think it does. I'd recommend it because, again, it's a very, very powerful. It will obliterate most things. If you can get it to have Earthquake, say goodbye to all of your opponents aside from flying types. It doesn't get a huge number. It gets a sizable number of ground moves and a couple other types, but that really doesn't matter if you're holding the Thick Club. I find it interesting that Marowak can be found here at level 17 when it evolves at level 28. So, I'd recommend going for the Marowak, just going for the rare encounter Marowak, just because he does have the better stats early on, has the fully evolved stats at 10 levels below when you get it, though. Depending on when you go to Safari Zone, you might not actually need to worry about that, because if you're like me and you're over level 30-ish, a Cubone is going to have evolved anyway. Sorry if I've been rambling on a bit about things, just a bit on edge about encountering another Larvitar. Behold, the mighty Tyranitar, or as it's presently known, Larvitar. This is the regional pseudo-legendary, an incredibly difficult Pokemon to both catch and train. Of course. Behold, Larvitar, the Pokemon that will one day become the mighty Tyranitar. With fantastic stats across the board, Tyranitar is the regional pseudo-legendary of Johto. With a 134 base physical attack. Yes! Yes, finally! This is probably like the 5th Larvitar I've found. That broke out and ran away on the first round. Okay, finally I caught it. Okay, good. Don't need to be careful anymore. Larvitar, the rock skin Pokemon. It feeds on soil. After it has eaten a large mountain, it falls asleep so it can grow. Well, I certainly moved a mountain trying to catch you. Yes, I am adding Larvitar to my team. And I can think of no more fitting name for such a great Pokemon. Godzilla. I think it is the perfect name for one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Back to Larvitar itself. It is a fantastic Pokemon. With fantastic stats across the board, 100 base HP, 135 physical attack, 110 defense, 95 special attack, 100 special defense, and 61 speed. This is a Pokemon that embodies bulky offense. It hits extremely hard, and unless it's facing down a super effective hit, it doesn't get hit too hard. It learns a lot of moves that can hit pretty hard. When it's fully evolved, it can learn all of the elemental bites by Move Tutor, not Move Tutor, but through Heart Scale, and through level up, it gets the move Crunch, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, and Earthquake. As a Dark Rock type, this is a Pokemon that hits particularly hard, and with its stellar defenses, it can go toe-to-toe with most Pokemon and come out on top. Its ability Sandstream makes a sandstorm appear that lasts for the rest of the battle in this current generation. This is a Gen 5 where Sandstorm buffs its special defense by 50%, but this is a Pokemon with fantastic stats as is. That would put Tyranitar in the territory of, this is a Pokemon you should always be using on your team because it's so freaking good. Its type combination, however, is also the source of a couple of problems. While great on offense, downright spectacular, especially for Johto, it opens it up to 6 weaknesses. A double weakness to fighting is pretty bad. A weakness to the common grass and water types is also not good. Steel is quite rare, but this is a generation where Dark is not neutral to Steel, and it's not going to be learning Earthquake until very high levels. And then there's Bug, which, being a rock type, it's supposed to be good against, though its speed is oftentimes good enough to outspeed because bugs have terrible speed to begin with. Being weak to 1/3 of the types in the game may not sound good until you realize how many offensive matchups it has. It has a great matchup list. Flying types, fire types, bug types, ghost types, and psychic types tremble before this mighty Pokemon. For as many weaknesses as it has, it also has resistances. Ghost, poison, flying, fire, an immunity to psychic, which was one of the most overpowered types in the previous generation, all make Tyranitar a fantastic Pokemon. However, this is a Pokemon that you straight up will not be able to get before beating the game. Evolving at level 55, when the highest level Pokemon you will be fighting in the main series is level 50. You're not going to be getting a Tyranitar before the end of the game without some serious grind work, and even then, Tyranitar's massive stats won't even matter because you're so far ahead of everything else in terms of levels, you just outstat them normally. So, you're going to be using Pupitar for a while. This isn't too terrible as Pupitar does learn some pretty good moves. Early on, Larvitar does learn Rock Slide, one of the best moves that you're likely going to want to keep for the rest of the game. It learns Earthquake at a pretty late level, level 41, which might be pretty steep, but by that point, Larvitar is a Pokemon you're not going to be using in battle normally, so I recommend keeping it unevolved, as I recommend with a lot of Pokemon. Pseudo-Legendaries in particular are known for becoming extremely powerful at later levels, and this is the case with Larvitar. The problem being, the intermediate stages, while at probably any earlier level, they don't have terrible stats. I mean, Pupitar has decent stats as is, better than a lot of Pokemon we've seen recently. It's because it's at level 40 to 50 that it ends up performing so lackluster. If it was level 20, it'd actually be pretty good. Though, because of how late the levels it is when you get one, it ends up just outstatted by so many other Pokemon. It does have Rock Slide to help make up for this, and Stab Earthquake is another big benefit. It is also a Rock Ground type early on, then after becoming Tyranitar, it loses the Ground type for Dark, So it does lose one attribute of it that made it pretty good. Stab Earthquake is one thing that makes Pupitar a bit more bearable than the other pseudo-legendaries. Early on, the pseudo-legendaries were very much, these are a struggle to use, and just bad stats. Early on, then evolve to become fantastic. Pupitar is kind of an odd one in that it's very good if it has a good matchup. Because it has Stab Earthquake, it can do a lot of damage, because it does have a fairly decent attack stat, and it has some fairly decent moves. Though, in 99% of the situations you're going to be finding it in, it's not going to be good. Overall, it's extremely rewarding when you finally get the Tyranitar. I wouldn't know this. I've never used a Tyranitar before. So this is going to be a first for me. Let's hope it works out. Well, after that giant fan thing about Tyranitar, we are now done with the Johto Safari Zone. Now we're going to get into one thing I don't like about this place. Well, two actually. There is one Pokemon I wanted to use on my team, and was super excited about when I saw it. It was in the Johto Safari Zone when doing research. That Pokemon was Houndoom. It's a Dark type, so you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. There's not many Dark types in Johto, and the Dark type would be really great on the team just because there's not a whole lot of them. As I've said, there are three options. One we have not seen yet, Murkrow and Tyranitar. Umbreon I leave out because Umbreon is so bad at offense, it's pure defense. Houndoom is not that third option. Houndoom is locked into post-game. When I heard this, I was very annoyed. I specifically chose my SoulSilver team with Houndoom in mind. I was thinking, okay, well, I want a fire type for the game. Houndoom is a dark fire type. I want a dark type as well on that team. Houndoom is a perfect fit. So I made the team around that. It wasn't until 2 days ago that I learned you cannot get Houndoom in the game normally. You have to use the Pokewalker to get it before beating the game. And I don't know if I want to do that. Because it would involve, I only have one Pokewalker with me right now, and it is linked up to my HeartGold. So I can't use it on SoulSilver. I wanted to use Tyranitar on my HeartGold because it is the main version that I'm going to be using. So I'm left with an interesting conundrum. Either trade a Houndoom from the that I get in the Pokewalker from HeartGold into SoulSilver and use that and kind of be a bit overpowered with the boosted experience, or just go through the whole game in SoulSilver with 5 party members, then beat the game, catch the Houndoom, and then go on. I mean, there was also the option of just make a new team member, or just get a new team member, but I'm not going to do that because I did structure this team very much with Houndoom as a member. I can't just go back and restructure the whole team because that would require a full team restructure. So it is either wait till I beat the game and then get the Houndoom in SoulSilver, or trade it over. Both of them are bad options in my eyes. I was really hoping to use Houndoom in that playthrough just because, well, I like Houndoom. But it would kind of make sense that out of both playthroughs I am actually only using a team of actually 5 Pokemon because Callion is going to be sitting on the sides from now on. So I might go with the 5 party member thing. Let me know what your guys' thoughts on that are. I'd be interested to know what your guys' feelings on using a traded Pokemon as a main team member would be, because I have said experience is a bit tight in this game. Though I haven't really been having much of a struggle with that lately, however. So, I want your thoughts on that. Sorry if my voice is also sounding a bit scratchy, still getting over a bit of a sore throat. That's why I wasn't able to record for the last couple of days. Sorry about that. So, I just want to know your thoughts on that. And then there was the other thing I was going to mention is the dark types. That is a big problem I have with this. As you saw, there are realistically 3 options. The very, very bad Glass Cannon, Murkrow, which you can't get Honchkrow for until very late, Tyranitar, which you won't be getting until you beat the game because of how late the evolution is, and then one Pokemon which gets no physical dark moves until extremely late in the game. So, it ends up with Dark type just being an offensive type you quite simply cannot take advantage of easily. it is one problem with Johto, and as much as I love this game for what it is, it's kind of a flawed masterpiece in my eyes, this game. The dark typing being kind of the big thing about it. Dark was a very, very clever idea, and it was meant to balance out Psychic, but the problem is you can't use it in this game until you beat it. This happened in the original game. It's a little bit better in this game, but it's still kind of bad. So I have a bit of a tirade about this, but it is something I do feel I have to say, because the much more recent games have actually fixed this problem. There is no other Pokemon game where you can get a Pokemon's pre-evolution and it holds it back from evolving in the same way this game does. In the remakes of Hoenn, we do have the areas where you can evolve all of the Pokemon that are location of evolutions. We can evolve, Magneton, the Eevee, and a couple of the other Pokemon which I haven't encountered yet that do evolve by locations. The evolutionary stones are not like the post-game. This remake is the only one that does this. And I feel that because of that, all those other games kind of were able to have that in the main story. Probably not the best time to be going over this, but I might actually just cut this part out. But just something I felt like I had to say, and I kind of feel that the annoyances of not being able to evolve certain Pokemon in this game was sort of a necessary that had to happen so that all these future games do not do that. This is something I felt like I had to say, and felt like this was probably the good time to go over it because we did encounter Honchkrow, which Honchkrow is, in my opinion, the most egregious form of this problem. I do like Honchkrow. I wish I actually could use it. Well, I mean, I can use it, it's just I choose not to because I have a full team, as I already have a planned full team and don't want to be carrying around a second Pokemon that is not going to be doing much, as well as it does have some weakest sharing with Togekiss. I'm just rambling out at this point. See you guys when we get done with this.